Welcome back to Library Choice YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful puffy ruffle detail on a dress. This can be used on a neckline, waistline, or anywhere it is that you want to use this to beautify. It's a very simple tutorial. It is elegant and it's beautiful. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So making this ruffle is very simple. I'll just be attaching it to this off shoulder blouse that I already drafted. So the measurement that you need for your ruffle, actually depends on how long you want this to be, but I'm just going to be adding it to the front part. You can make it extend to the back if that is what you want, but I'm just making calculations for my front. So what you can do is you can measure from your sleeve area through your neckline back to your second sleeve. This is 20 inches, and then you can multiply these measurements by 2 or 3. So I'm going to be multiplying this by around 2 because I don't have enough fabric. I'm using Ankara fabric. So since my Ankara fabric is just 45 inches in length, I'm just going to exhaust the 45 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to put my fabric on fold. The length is going to be 45 inches. Like I said, if you want this to be fuller, you can multiply it by 3. Then if you are using Ankara fabric, you can just cut on the yardage area, not on the length, so that you can have enough, or you just cut and join to each other so that you can have one long fabric. So now you can see how I'm folding this fabric. So this is the length of the fabric, which is 45 inches. So I'm just going to put it on fold like this, and then I'm going to measure out between 10 to 12 inches, okay, on fold. So if I'm measuring 10 inches on fold, it means by the time I open it out, I'm going to have 20 inches. If I measure 11 inches, by the time I open it, I'm going to have 22 inches. So I'm going to measure 11 inches on fold, and that's going to be 11 inches by the 45 inches length. So I'll fold my fabric well now, and then I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so I'm gonna have to measure this out, and you can see that I have, this is 11 inches, as you can see. I hope you can see this well. Okay, so this is 11 inches, and the length is the length of the Ankara, which is 45 inches. Okay, so this is 45 inches. Then after cutting it, remember this is on folded into 2. I just placed it over each other like this, and then I run a stitch so that I can turn it to the right side. So you place it right side facing right side. You can have 2 separate fabric and place it on each other and sew it on both sides, but if you have enough fabric, you can just fold it and then sew it so that you don't have too much seam line. So now I cut my own 22 inches by 11 by 45 inches, then I put it on fold, and then I just sew it on one part. So after sewing it on that part, the next thing you're going to do now is to turn this out. So once I turn it out, I'm going to have the right side of my fabric. So now it depends on the type of fabric that you're using. If your fabric is not so strong, you may add interfacing to this so that it can be really puffy for you, so that I can have that full puffy effect. But this Ankara is okay, and this is just for a tutorial, and it's a requested tutorial, so I'm just going to use it like that because it's not so soft and it's still going to give me what I want. So like I said, I'm just doing this for the front part of the fabric, and then I want it to have like four puffiness. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to divide this length of 45 inches by 4. So to do this, I'm going to fold it into 2 first. Okay, so after folding it into 2, I'm going to use my chalk to mark that fold point, and then I'm going to fold it again so that I can have 4. And then I'm going to make all of that into a straight line, so you can see. So you can measure this and divide this, but I'm just doing a very simple method of doing this so that even a beginner can do this. So once I straighten it out now, I'm going to look for where I have my markings. Okay, then once I see it, I'm going to make all of them into a straight line. So now once you see your points, I can see one of it, and this is the other one. So using my ruler, I'm just going to rule a mark there so that I can make it bold. So that's the first one. Then I'll look for the second one so I can see it. I'll use my ruler to mark it like that also. Then I'm going to look for my third line, which is this, and then I'm going to rule it. So I have it as 1, 2, 3. So I have 1, 2, 3 and 4 boxes. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to take this to the sewing machine and run a gather stitch on each of this line. Okay, so I'll run my gather stitch here, here and here. Then I'll bring it back to show us how we are going to drag it. So I've gone ahead to run my loose stitches. So what I'm going to do now is pick one of the threads that I have here, and then I'm going to carefully drag it so that I can gather this. So you can do it like this, or you just do it manually by just taking this to your machine now, and then you gather it manually like this. So gather it and then run your stitch to hold this down. Whichever one you want to work with is totally fine. So now I'm going to gather all of this carefully and then take it back to my machine and hold it tightly with a stitch. So this is what I'm doing, and after I have done this now, I'll bring it back because I want this video to be as short as possible. So I'll gather this now and bring it back to show us what I want, but I just want to show us the first one before I go. So you just gather this carefully. If you are doing this, you have to be careful not to cut your thread, because if you cut it, you have to start all over again, or you just use the other method. So now I've gathered this now, and then this is what I have. So now I'm going to measure what I have here, and that is what is going to be my guide for the other one. So I have around 3.5 inches here. I've gathered this to 3.5 inches, so I'm going to go ahead now and do the rest the same way. Okay, so I've gone ahead to gather this, and you can see how it is looking. So like I said, you need to add maybe an interface, maybe a gum stay or something to make it really puff to yours. So now that I have this, the next thing now is to open it out to have that puffiness. So now I'm opening this, and then I'll go over to the second one also. I'm going to open it. So for the last one also, you can gather this like this so that I can also open this out. So, and if you want it continuous to the back, you just keep doing it all around like that. So now the next thing is for me to bring in my off shoulder. Okay, so when I bring in my off shoulder, at the center point, I'm going to place the one on the midpoint on it, and then I will sew it down. So the next one now is going to be, you can measure like 2 inches. Okay, you can measure the distance between where the center front stops and where the second one is going to stop. So I have 9 inches there, and then the middle of 9 inches is going to be 4.5 inches. So I'm going to place the next one on this 4.5 inches mark, and then I'm going to sew it down. So this space that we have here is what is going to give it that puffiness that we're looking for. So now I'll take it to the sewing machine. I'll stitch it down here, stitch it down here, and then do the same thing for this other side. Then I'll come back to show us what to do next. Okay, so I've gone ahead to stitch it down. You can see that I've held it down at those intervals. So now the next thing now is to spread this out. So once you spread it out, this is what you're going to have. So like I said, depending on how full you want it to be, that is what is going to determine your measurements. In fact, if you spread it out, you can just tack it down at midpoint like this also. Then I also tagged it here so that it can form another puff effect for me on the side also. So now I'll take this to the mannequin so that we can see what this looks like, but you can see the ruffles that we already have here now. Okay, so this is what our ruffle is looking like on the mannequin. You can see how big and beautiful this is looking. So if you want it bigger or smaller, you just need to adjust your measurements, and this is where I tagged it. So when you're tagging it, you make sure you use a matching color of thread, although the bulkiness of the ruffle is not going to let your thread show. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.